Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for everybody who's dropping greetings in the chat. This is Catherine, one of the co-chairs for the Indoor Air Subcommittee. It looks like we're at pretty good critical mass, and Elaine and I, as the co-chairs, will be co-facilitating this afternoon's conversation. So before we get started, just wanted to confirm that we're good to go in terms of people we're expecting to attend, and that Stephanie, you're like last time able to help support us on notes, and we can definitely help fill in as we go. Awesome, cool, thank you. So Elaine helped set up the agenda in the kind of draft structure that was prepared for us, and we can look at that in just a few minutes, but we figured, you know, this is only our second official meeting as a subcommittee. So a few months ago, we kind of had those breakout room discussions. I was going to say workout room discussions about all of the different measures that we wanted to move forward. I believe that was maybe in November, and then December, this group had our first call. And so this is just our second call as a group. And so we figured that one important thing to be able to start out with would be a bit more detailed intros than we might normally take the time to do. So we were going to ask people to do the kind of standard name and pronouns, and if you have an organization that you're working with. And then we have two questions that I can also help drop in the chat and that I can model, and then we can just pass the virtual mic around to be able to do introductions with everybody. So the two questions are, why are you interested in working on indoor air filtration? And then what do you bring to the subcommittee? Like if there's a specific role or an expertise or something that you feel like you'd like to contribute to the group. So as I said, as a co-facilitator, I will model and start out, and then I'll pass it over to Elaine. And of course, Elaine, add if I forgot anything in the overview of today's meeting, but I'm Catherine, she and they pronouns. I work with the Central Valley Air Quality Coalition, or CVAC. I'm interested in indoor air because when we go out into the community and talk to people about the health impacts of air pollution, one of the first questions they ask us is, what can I do to protect myself and my family? So recognizing that while we work to clean up our air, that people are still in an immediate sense impacted, and that we need to do something to protect people right now, especially people that are living in environmental justice communities where they're exposed to much higher doses of air pollution. In terms of what I bring, I have been working on air pollution issues in the Valley since 2006, and I have a PhD in geography. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about these different issues, and CVAC is really fortunate to have a really great network of organizations that we work with that can be subject matter experts or otherwise help us in moving this measure forward. So I'm bringing the CVAC network and my capacity to help co-facilitate the group. So thank you again, everybody, for joining. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Elaine.
Thanks, Catherine. And I assume we're going to do popcorn after this, correct? Okay, perfect. Hey, everyone. Elaine Lavson, she, her, hers, Health Equity Director with Little Manila Rising. I am very interested in the Indoor Air Quality Coalition subcommittee meeting is because for all the folks who have been engaged with AB 617 since the beginning of our start, we did lose our co-founder, Dr. Don Buholana-Mabalan, to an asthma-related incident. And so that really brought our work into environmental justice. And so a little fast forward to the work that I'm currently engaged in, that is the Dawn Asthma Mitigation Program, standing for Decreasing Asthma Within Neighborhoods. It does honor her work and is a homage to her, but also a lot of her narrative emulates a lot of South Stockton folks who may not realize the severity of their asthma. And so I engage in that work, offering asthma mitigation, home visits, asthma remediation, and education. We've been in the program going on year 2 now, and we have some project partners online, which I'm really excited for them to be on the call. And then I bring to the table, I'm a current master's in public health student, so I get to bring in that hat into the piece, but also born and raised in South Stockton. And so understanding a lot of the environment within the area, and a lot of the work that I bring, and the folks and family that I also bring with me on my within my work. And I will popcorn to Margot.
Wow, I'm Margot Prouse. I'm a long time. You didn't put the questions in the chat yet, Catherine. So, a longtime resident of Stockton. I'm chair of the Sierra Club here, and I really appreciate what Elaine was saying about Dr. Dawn Mabalon, because I met her once at an event downtown that was organized where she was just so inspiring, and it wasn't long afterwards when she passed, and it was such a loss, even though I never worked directly with her. I'm I'm a retired nurse. I worked in the neonatal unit at San Joaquin General Hospital for over 30 years. Lungs are one of the biggest issue for neonatal babies that are ill, and how we provide for them in the community is very, very important to me. I think indoor is very important, and I'd like to see our families protected more than they are. And I need to share too that I'm a little frustrated with, I think we're doing really good work in AB 617, but I don't see the community, I don't see the government changing what's going on, and we keep exacerbating things. So just, I'm hoping indoor air can be a real positive for people. Oh, I have to pass it. I'm going to pass it to Doug because he was on the call before me.
And also, Margot, if there was anything, maybe you already touched on this, but if there was anything that you wanted to contribute to the group, like any particular role you would want to play.
I'll see, have to see. I don't know. You threw me with that one. I just don't know. I will work on whatever I can work on. So. Okay, Doug, you're up.
Thank you, Margot. I really I'm a realtor, and I'm also a property manager. I work in the company, and when people buy houses and the owner do not want to put anything into the house, you know, whether stripping or putting anything that has to do with the program, that's what I seek to look for, try to help them. You know, I know that I had my house done by PG&E, where they removed the old outlet and updated that. They changed the door and from the draft, they seal it, they did the new window. I mean, those programs are wonderful, and I'm surprised it's non-existent. I don't, you know, they don't. Now people don't use that no more, and we need to have that more for us in Stockton, and be and educate that they do this, and I have used that program, and I had a lot of positive results in that. You know, one for this particular house and one for the other houses, and they did a great job, and that's why weatherization is very important, because they still protect us from the outside element from our own home. So that's my house is a very protective house. I make sure that I live in a house where, like, we're quarantined right now. It's protected from the outside, you know what I mean? So I feel protected with my own home, and I like to have something that will do away from the environmental element, you know what I mean? So that's what my bigger concern. As for me, as a community, right now I am, like I already told you, I'm a realtor, I'm a notary, and also I'm an immigration consultant. And that's where all the people that work, that in that particular are people that are contractor and that go and out and fix houses, doors, and everything. And they're very good at that, you know. and I really appreciate it, Mario. And I rather have my community, just with the market, just make me think about how government is not really key point, not rapid. We're not getting any younger. We're just kind of slow pacing. And I just wish that things like this particular program will take off once we just get everything set where it should be, and then let's start making that program happening for everyone in the community in Stockton. That's it. My name is Douglas Mitchell. My pronoun is first was non-binary, now it's him and his. Oh, I'm sorry. I picked Juan Cardoza.
Thank you, Douglas. My name is Juan Carranza, Senior Communications Rep for the Air Valley Air District. Why am I interested in indoor air? Obviously, I am very new to the organization, so it's one of the priority topics for me to learn about. And so we are heavily invested within the communities, especially when it's related to this particular topic. What do I bring to the table and to the group? I would say ability to develop and implement strategies for community outreach and engagement. So now I will pass it on to Jessica Olsen.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Olsen. I'm the Director of Community Strategies and Resources at the district. Hopefully a lot of you know me, but I do see some additional project partners. So nice to meet you. Joel is probably the only person I haven't met. I just, as by way of background, I did undergrad at UCLA in bioengineering, and grad school I studied biomaterials at UC Irvine. So I have my master's in bioengineering as well. And then I ended up here at the district. I was raised in Fresno and then came back to Fresno. And actually my first job, like literally the day after I graduated, started here at the Air District, and just loved it ever since. And one of the things that I feel empowered to do, and I just, as we've learned and grown with this particular program, is that a lot of the work that we do and a lot of the work that you all do really in partnership with us touches so many lives, and it affects all of us here at the district, but particularly all of the sort of priority vulnerable populations we touch on. So certainly what we're here to bring specifically to this is just support for you all. I really appreciate all of the community-led work that's been going on, and I really appreciate Dr. Grupa White and Elaine, especially for getting this going and facilitating it in such a great way. So we're here to help, and reach out and let me know if you need anything from us. And with that, I will pass it to Taylor.
Thanks, Jess. Hi, everybody. My name is Taylor Williams. I'm a resident on the CSC, and I use he, him, his pronouns. So, I mean, I would say why I'm interested in being here and a part of this group is, I mean, when air quality is bad, especially when it's fluctuating, it gets particularly bad, and we have a way to escape inside sometimes. And for a lot of people, that actually isn't a respite, especially if you're in communities where you have poorly built buildings, and like there's actually hazards inside those buildings before the air quality outside even hits. So I think in like the interest of, maintaining equity as a tenet of our conversations and AB 6107 across the whole, we have to be very mindful of people's air inside as well, especially during like a global pandemic where we spend so much of our time inside anyway. So I think that's why I wanted to be here. In terms of what I bring, I'm like kind of like a nerd for like organization and like project management stuff and tools. So whatever I can do to contribute with that. And also I just know I have the fortune of working with Catherine and Elaine, and know that they'll bring a lot to the table that I could probably glean off for my own subcommittees that I'm looking to co-lead. So I have a bit of a selfish piece of that as well. And I'll pass it over to Brian.
All right, thank you, Taylor. Good to see everybody this afternoon. My name is Brian Dodds. I'm a program manager in our grants and incentives department here at the Air District, and really interesting to hear everybody's thoughts on the subcommittee. But in terms of answering the questions, I think one of the things that I'm interested in about indoor quality and about the work of this subcommittee is it's something new to us. We haven't really offered this type of program in the past. You know, we're traditionally focused on replacing engines and pieces of equipment and things like that. And one of the benefits of 617 is getting to have these new options available based on the community interest. And this is something that we can learn off of and apply in other areas. And so I think just hearing your guys' thoughts and how you want to construct this and what you're interested in and what your priorities are very helpful for me as I continue to learn and grow and hopefully be able to provide these opportunities to others as well. In terms of what I would be able to bring or contribute to the group, you know, hopefully our experience in implementing incentive programs is helpful, and our knowledge and maybe what we think may work or not work. But you know, hopefully I can answer questions in that regard. But really, you know, wanting to hear from you guys and not you know, interject, I guess, too much on our or my thoughts or preferences. So hopefully I can be a resource, but you know, hopefully you know, we spend a lot of time listening and learning from you guys as well. So thank you. And I will send it over to Kyle Goff.
Hey, all right. Thanks, Brian. I'm Kyle Goff. My pronouns are he, him, his. I work in the California Air Resources Board, as I think most of you probably know. I work on the Carl Moyer program, and I also work on the community air protection incentives. I have I don't know exactly how relevant it is, but I have a Bachelor of Science from CSUS in molecular biology. And you know, obviously what I bring to the table is I can sort of help sort of clarify CARB's perspective on things, and kind of help answer questions and research answers to questions as far as how to develop this particular program, this particular category of incentive in a way that will sort of make the review process at CARB go as quickly as possible. I think most of you have heard that it's not always been a smooth process. So I'm hoping with me involved, maybe I can help it go smooth. As far as you know, why I'm engaged here in the subcommittee, I think it would be disingenuous to just say that I have a direct vested interest in it per se. But that being said, this is the first kind of incentive I've seen, at least, you know, with my background on the Moyer program, where there's going to be an incentive that is going directly to community members in their residences. Like, that's really cool. It's going to be really neat to see. I think it's super duper in line with the whole point of AB 617, like benefiting community members directly. Like, it's neat when, you know, like a big high polluting truck gets turned over and you know, the area around where it's used is cleaned up as a result. But it's a little indirect, right? So it's neat to be able to see these funds go directly to folks in the community. And so yeah, with that, I guess I'll popcorn it on over to Scott.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Scott Wall, also with the California Air Resources Board. I, with Kyle, am assigned as the overall community liaison to the AB 617 process for Stockton. And once we knew that this subcommittee was happening, as well as the other subcommittees, I thought it would be a great time to bring in kind of some specialty staff from other functions to be the primary lead for CARB. And so with Kyle being the incentives person and understanding that side of the house a little bit more than I do, asked Kyle if he might be the CARB lead. And I'm here as the community liaison to Stockton. As far as, I mean, I obviously have an interest in all of the subcommittees because I am the statewide liaison to Stockton, but I will say that one of the things that I find interesting about indoor air and weatherization is that I believe it is one of the things that people can do for themselves and their environment to help themselves. And obviously, I think with us having some outreach and some funding to help them here, I think is a great thing. And I think it's a wonderful thing to support. And sorry, my pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm jumping all over the board here. And as far as what I hope to bring or contribute to the group is above and beyond Kyle being here as the incentives of what I hope to bring to the group is any other connections to other state agencies. I am happy to help kind of facilitate that, do additional research for other programs. As an example, I know that the California Climate Investment, CCI, works with other state agencies that may have some funding in these types of areas. So really just working in partnership with Kyle to support whatever the committee needs from a statewide perspective, or if there are other folks from a scientific perspective that you'd like to bring in from CARB, I'm happy to kind of facilitate that conversation as well. And with that, I will hand it over to Jasmarie.
Thank you, Scott. I'm Jasmarie Latour. I go by Jazzy, she, her, hers, and I'm with Little Manila Rising as the community health equity specialist, and working with the DAWN program, decreasing asthma within neighborhoods. And so working with asthma mitigation and going into people's homes. I'll be the one who has their feet on the ground and reaching out to different community advocates in South Stockton and doing, checking for environmental triggers and working with them with asthma education and that sort of thing. And so in-home air quality fits directly in line with that and how to empower folks to advocate for themselves and get them connected with the right resources through this program and others. Yeah, so I don't know if I hit all the questions. Came in a little bit late, but glad to be here. So I'm not sure who hasn't gone yet. So if anybody wants to just jump in.
You did hit all the questions, Jasmarie. So thanks for jumping in with that. I'll just quickly, I know we have a couple people still left to go, and also Jonathan Pruitt in the chat said that his mic isn't working. So he's here, interested in indoor air and wanting to bring attention to it. He hopes Catholic Charities can streamline the information that comes from the subcommittee to Boggs Tract. And he also started his master's in public health at Johns Hopkins University and wants to try to bring technical tools from them to this subcommittee. So thanks for joining, Jonathan. Joel, did you want to go next?
Sure, happy to. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. It's great to be here again today. My name is Joel Irvis. Pronouns are he, him, his. I'm with RAMP, which stands for Regional Asthma Management and Prevention. Our mission is to reduce the burden of asthma with a focus on health equity. As part of our work, we are providing technical assistance to the asthma home visiting programs that are funded by the State Health Foundation as part of the Asthma Mitigation Project, and Little Manila Rising, and Beatrice was on here earlier from El Concilio, our funded partners as part of that effort. And so Elaine and Catherine reached out about joining this group because of those connections, and also because of, and this kind of gets into what I might be able to bring and contribute to this group. We have a long history of working on a variety of different asthma initiatives, including improving indoor air quality in the home through asthma home visiting programs. We also do a lot of healthy housing work, program and policy work related to healthy housing. And then a lot of our work over the past 20 plus years has focused on outdoor air quality as well. And so I think this type of project so anyway, so I hope that I'm able to share some of those experiences and knowledge about the programs, including a air filtration program that we're doing in partnership with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District right now, that is providing air filtration units to various families throughout the Bay Area. Also have a pretty good sense of various policy initiatives and policy efforts. So if that is useful, I'm happy to contribute that too. In terms of what I find so important about indoor air, there are so many connections between indoor air quality and asthma. It's one of those things that really has to be addressed in order to better manage asthma, but it also gets at so many issues of equity and the disproportionate and the inequitable burden that many low-income communities and communities of color face related to poor housing quality, few tenant protections, and also outdoor air quality and air pollution. Catherine, I loved your early comment about this type of effort around filtration being a great bridge, given that outdoor air quality can come into the home. So in some ways, this type of effort is a really great, it's a great twofer, right? You can address multiple sources of pollution, and it's a bridge to the longer term changes that we need, right? Like so much effort is going on right now across the state related to electrifying the freight transportation system or reducing pollution from stationary sources. And we really have to continue to do that. Something like an air filtration program, though, is a great short-term fix while we work on those longer-term changes that provide immediate relief for the families who need it the most. So I think I covered everything, and again, it's great to be here.
You did. Thanks so much for that intro, Joel. And I'm learning
Sure.
from you all as we're doing intros. I think we have just a few folks left: Stephanie, Mary Elizabeth, and Cynthia. Stephanie, did you want to go next?
Sure, thank you. My name is Stephanie Ng, and I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm an air quality specialist in the Community Strategies and Resources Department. Similar to Jocelyn Bruin, I got my undergrad in environmental science and environmental engineering at UCLA. And I got my master's in public health from UC Berkeley in environmental health sciences. So I'm very interested in air quality and health equity issues, and I'm looking forward to supporting this subcommittee and really all of the Stockton subcommittees in whatever way possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Mary Elizabeth, did you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you, Mary Elizabeth. I'm she, her, and I'm very interested in helping, folks that we've got a lot of older housing stock in the AB 617, and I'd like to see, whatever we can do to help people live healthier in their homes, as well as, decreasing their bills. So, a lot of these older homes, have large bills that are associated with, leaky and needing of weatherization. So I'm glad to be able to contribute what I can. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Elizabeth. And if I was keeping accurate track, I think Cynthia, my alternate with CVAC, you will be rounding us out. But if we missed anybody, please feel free to raise your hand or come off of mute and introduce yourself after Cynthia.
Thanks, Catherine. This is Cynthia Pinto Cabrera, Catherine's alternate, she, her, hers. And I'm really interested in indoor air quality because growing up, I actually lived in a home that had to rely on wood burning as a source of heating for several years. And that contributed to my developing asthma as a child. So really interested in how we can prevent other communities and other Valley residents from, experiencing the same things that I did and developing asthma later on in life. And in terms of what we can bring to what I can bring to the table, definitely here to support you all in the work that CVAC does. And everybody's kind of doing plugs for what graduate programs they're in. So for me, I'm actually doing a master's in environmental policy and management through the online program of University of Denver. So super excited to, contribute to all of the knowledge that's here, and really excited to get some work going. Thanks.
Thanks, Cynthia, and again to everybody for humoring us and taking a bit more time. We are always very busy and action-oriented as this group, and it's nice every now and then, especially at the kickoff of the new year and only the second official meeting of this subcommittee, that we take a little bit of extra time to get to know each other and people's interests, your background, the expertise you all bring. Definitely collectively, it will take all of us to get this done and to do it well. So really appreciate everybody's collaboration and consultation on this project. I'm going to pass it back to Elaine now to take us to our next agenda item after intros.
Thanks, Catherine. Being that this is our only second meeting, we were understanding what the vision and the work plan really needs for this indoor air quality subcommittee to be moving forward. And I was hoping to hear from Valley Air District to see what they see for the vision and the direction for our subcommittee meeting and for the measure.
Absolutely. So yeah, happy to take that, Elaine. And then I can see if Brian or others have thoughts or things that I missed. I was not at a part of the last meeting, although I did watch the recording and look at the notes in preparation. So, but in the last meeting, I know that it was shared and Joel touched a little bit on it, that there are other air districts who have done or are starting to do similar type programs where they are working with community members in order to get indoor air filtration to residents. And so 2 of those that they're linked in the live agenda currently are the Bay Area Air Quality Management Districts program, as well as the San Diego Air Pollution Control Districts program. And so something that we envision, I mean, just in terms of what we have done or types of programs that we've done in the past, that might be more akin to maybe one or over the other. If you haven't had a chance already, and maybe someone can drop in the chat the link, it's here in the main running agenda, but the San Diego Apcd air filtration program is something that maybe is a little bit more in line with something that we could envision. So what they did is they took out an they kind of did 2 separate RFPs, but essentially they did one where they went out and purchased just one type of indoor air filtration. In this case, it's like one of the top of the lines. It happens to be like a nicer version even than the one that I own. It's called Blue, which is a type of air filter that I know is, we talked a little bit last time about like meeting all the certifications from CARB and meeting all these like specific requirements. Anyhow, they purchased like a set of them, and then they partnered with, they did an RFP where they would have someone who would administer the program. And that would be someone who would do all of the outreach, all of the advocacy, or maybe partner with you all or folks within the community to help do that outreach and advocacy and get these air filtration units out to community members. In this case, and I took a little snippet, I could drop this snippet in the chat. It's just a piece from that the link that's in there, and I'll just kind of drop in the chat, and so you can kind of see, maybe once it might be too big to drop in the chat at once. I don't know if that's a thing, perhaps. But essentially, so I'll read it out loud and then I'll drop pieces in the chat when I'm finished. But essentially, what they did is they paid for a new device. So again, this was the Blue Air. If anyone knows of the different models, it's the 311. So it's a large portable residential air purifier. And this would include 3 additional disposable filters for multiple years of continuous operation at no cost to the program participants. And so in order to streamline it, the Air District then contracted with someone to run that program. And so if we as a committee were collectively interested in doing something like this, where the idea is to get a portable air filtration program to anyone that's within the community boundaries that would be eligible for this, we do feel like it would be best if we contracted with someone to like run the program that has experience and expertise in this sort of work. In this case, the group that they ended up contracting with does also, which I think was a discussion last time as well, they do air quality data collection and monitoring to sort of understand the device's efficacy and sort of the changes that are being made within the indoor air filtration or indoor air atmosphere. So definitely, I think, again, along the lines of a lot of what we talked about last time, and certainly overall vision-wise, I think aligns a lot with what we feel like we would be able to do as an air district as well. But I know there are a lot of experts on this call, so certainly open to hearing from others if if they've been familiar or did have a chance to review the San Diego proposal or what they are doing, and provide feedback or ask us any questions. I know particularly about incentives type programs, we do have Brian and Janine on the call, so they can help answer any specific questions, or I think just Brian on the call who can help answer those as well. I do see Doug's hand though.
Are you gonna let Brian talk, or you want me to ask the question?
I feel like you can ask the question, Doug.
Okay. So can you explain to me, Jessica, what is the machine that does in the home? Are there filtration that are, I know I have a filtration, but it's always, I have to change the filter every week. Not every week, every 3 weeks. And it gets dirty really quick. And there's another machine that called Ion. It's something that is like another, it's kind of, when they suck that, it kind of stick together to a metal, an Ion filter. And that lasts longer than the one you show on the filter, or sometimes in the house. Sometimes when you get like a duct tape filter, and they're very, very, what do you call it? Lining, like webby, something like that. Anyway, the reason why I asked, because I want to see if you're going to have a quality machine or a quantity machine. Get it out. So those are the things that I'm concerned about, because if you're going to have something that is going to be work for our health, then we need to have something that is tangible and less costly to when it comes to changing the filter every 3 months or every 6 months instead of every month. You know what I mean? So you have to have some kind of duration from that machine. Right. That's what I meant. That's the question I'm gonna ask.
I'm gonna share a quick screenshot of what this is, the exact machine that I was just referring to. It happens to be because of San Diego's proposal. And I'll explain, from my best abilities, kind of in general, how that works. But then I definitely I know there's experts on the call, so I don't want to speak for them. I'm just going to share, I just Googled, and this is blueair.com. So this is the actual group. So essentially, it's a standalone unit. You would have to replace the filter every so often. And the concept, at least in this particular proposal, would be to provide those replacement filters. And these are filters that are like HEPA filters. So the filtration medium itself is that it filters through a material, and it doesn't, there are certain types of air filters out there that actually, with the intention of filtering out air, do create ozone. And so there are actually certain types of air filters that go through, CARB actually has a process by which they certify air filters to make sure that no one purchases those air filtration devices that are ionizers and do end up actually polluting the air, creating something that's harmful to you. So this is the kind that would not be that case. So this would be, one of the certified types of devices. But certainly I think your question, Doug, is that, are these types of devices like accessible to community members? Do they work? Is that your kind of just generally your question as well? I don't know if Joel or others on the call who have experience with these types of filters have any comments.
Sure, yeah, I can add that for the Bay Area project. The Air District went through a similar process in terms of, they have a different structure, but they did a solicitation for vendors for the air filters themselves. And they selected 2 different types of units that are being provided to the 7 asthma home visiting programs in the region. And those filters are the kind of the mechanical kind. They have a filter in them. So they, I think someone shared the RFQ during our last meeting. It had similar benchmarks in terms of being, on CARB's list of approved devices, so that they would not produce any ozone. And then they also looked at, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but there's essentially an association that also rates different air filters, and I can find it, but it's that was another sort of a good housekeeping seal of approval related to the air exchange rates and other factors. So I think the Air District feels really good about the units that they ended up going with.
I'm dropping in the chat for those that maybe don't don't have the agenda open on their desktop, the RFQ that Joel just referred to.
So Joe, are you saying that the people that had that device were okay with it, or would they have any comment regarding that particular those particular product, that just because it stands of approval, it was going to be costly filter, or it's going to be cheaper getting it? But yeah, people are not going to be able to use it because of the filter. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and it's such a great point, Douglas, because the filters can be expensive, and so the way it worked for the Bay Area program is that the Air District bought the filters themselves, or excuse me, not the filters, bought the air cleaners that are being distributed to the asthma home visiting programs, and the district at this point did not provide extra filters, if I remember correctly, for the clients, but the asthma home visiting programs have the option to do so. And I think, excuse me, many are, because they recognize that, to ensure the ongoing use, that's a really important component. So yeah, it's a great thing to keep in mind for long-term use, right? Because you don't want to go through the expense and the hassle and the work of providing these air cleaners, and then families use them for 3 months, the filter runs out, and that's it.
So yeah, the filter and being able to change them out regularly, and the cost of that is definitely something that we want to keep in mind. And I think in the Bay Area originally they said they weren't offering additional filters to change out, but that they've heard that that's a need. So again, I think those are important things to be able to have as a group and with partners about, what does implementation look like, and how do we use best practices from existing models, recognizing that the Valley Air District hasn't run this kind of project before. So 2 quick questions for you, Jessica and team. Really appreciate all the links. One would be if you all also have any contacts that you would recommend at the San Diego Air District that we could talk to about how it has worked there. And then the other is whether you all have a sense of if you all would need to issue an RFP or an RFQ and go through the whole same process, or if part of the idea would be that you would already use the research from other places in selecting filters, or just kind of logistically what it would look like.
I can speak to the second point, and unless I'm 99% certain we'd have to go through some RFP, RFQ. Now, in terms of, I'm thinking that at least in terms of like having an entity run the program, someone that's like running the program and processing all of this, doing a lot of that work. I would also assume that would be the case for the purchasing of the air filters, although we collectively as a subcommittee can work together on the criteria and what we would want to look for when it comes to an RFP. So, it wouldn't necessarily be, we do an RFP and then we come back and we're like all disappointed in the, in what came out in bid. It would definitely be something the criteria themselves, and even collectively as a group, maybe we can review the RFP, responses together. That can be some of the subcommittee or a lot of the subcommittee input as well. So I would think that would still be the case. Of course, we'll always, check with our council to make sure, but that's usually how it goes for this type of work. Just the way that, government works anyway, having to make sure it's fair and equitable.
Thanks, Jessica. That's really helpful to get a sense of what implementation might look like. And
Catherine, can I jump in real quick?
Oh yeah, of course. I was just going to say we can also follow up offline, but any contacts you have in San Diego. Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry to interrupt. Jessica, I just wanted to add that in a side conversation that a few of us were having with a rep from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, she referenced air districts being able to essentially piggyback on one another's RFQs. It was sort of a general comment, and she wasn't sure about the applicability for something like this. And of course, your own air district has its own processes, but she specifically mentioned that they had encountered efficiencies related to RFQs in the past. So it's absolutely worth asking that question, because if it worked out that you wouldn't then have to go through that additional hoop, it would mean a faster implementation time.
Interesting. Yeah, no, we'll definitely take a look at that. Especially if it turns out that maybe collectively as a committee, we felt like the exact models, we feel work in Bay Area based on all of the feedback we're getting, is what we want to do. That would certainly streamline it, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you'd want to be satisfied with the outcomes, but if you were, then great. Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, that's a great point. And yes, Catherine, we can definitely get contact and definitely follow up. That we'll make that an action item for San Diego.
Awesome, thank you. Definitely want to build as much as we can from what exists while also recognizing the San Joaquin Valley is unique. So we want to look at what exists and also figure out how to tailor it to our local circumstances. And I know that we only have about 12 minutes left in the meeting, and I want to reserve a little bit of time to make sure that we can touch on next steps. Before I make that segue, I want to make sure that anybody else who had questions or comments kind of about what we've discussed so far, what logistically implementation might look like for this measure. Anybody else have any comments or questions that you want to make now before we segue to talking about next steps?
And I see your hand raised, Douglas. I just wanted to see if you had any other questions.
So I have a question, but I'm reluctant to ask in part because I have said enough and I don't want to take airtime. It's a slight tangent related, but I'll defer if others have comments.
Yeah, and I'd say let's at least put it on the bike rack, Joel. I
Yeah.
appreciate you're being willing to defer to the group. So definitely, again, want to
Absolutely.
encourage people, if you have anything, drop it in the chat, raise your hand, come off mute. We definitely want to hear from you. Yeah, and otherwise, Joel, definitely at least want to hear your question, even if we can't dive into it today.
Totally fine.
I have a question. I can't see the chat room because the print is too small for me to read. I'm kind of legally blind. I cannot see what's going on there. But the question is that there is an agenda right now that we're talking about the air filtration, and we're going to be able to talk about other things that is manual labor when it comes to weatherproofing the house. Is there a program that already existed in the air quality management?
I can answer that if you guys accept that. Okay. So yeah, so one of the action items or one of the things we wanted to do to follow up was there are existing, so the measure is kind of a funny measure. It's to conduct outreach about weatherization. So like there's linking up to there are several existing programs, I think is your question, Doug, about weatherization or to help weatherize and to help provide assistance to weatherization and energy efficiency in homes with it, particularly just like at the San Joaquin County level. And then to provide incentives for this air filtration piece. We did follow up, we did actually a lot of follow up with, or tried to follow up with folks at the county level that provide that weatherization and energy efficiency support. We've actually had a little bit of trouble on our end. I'm not sure if other folks, and Stephanie, I'm gonna totally butcher the name of the group. So if you want to say the name of the group, it's like San Joaquin County Economic, I know, sorry, you're unmuting, but.
Yeah, I do. It's okay. So they do have their home energy assistance program, and then they have the weatherization program. And I have been trying to reach someone at the weatherization program and I'm playing a bit of phone tag and haven't been able to reach them after the holidays, but I'll keep trying.
So if others have those particular contacts, we can definitely, use that support to follow up, but we'll just keep following up. So we are definitely committed to bringing that information as soon as we have it, Doug, not only to this committee, but maybe to this committee to figure out outreach and support, and then bring it to the full committee to talk about how to make sure that those programs are available to the whole community. Maybe we can brainstorm a little bit, not just in this committee, but in our outreach committee about getting those programs to others. So definitely trying on our end to do our part. But again, if others offline want to reach out to us and help us with that contact, it could be a holidays thing, but yeah, we've tried several times.
Okay, but as far as I'm sorry, one more question. As far as the disability community, how did you gonna reach out to them as far as program where you have to have, I know they have to have a logo to identify if they're either accessible to them as well as come to their home and able to understand what the information based on, because you could give the information, but they're limited on vocabulary. So you got to understand that you have to keep it simple and to the point what it actually does at the program.
I wonder if, again, when we bring those folks, assuming we get a hold of them, and we are very committed to bringing them to the next meeting, that can be feedback directly and questions directly dug to that group, or we can provide that feedback to them and say, you know, we, as a part of our CERT measure, are trying to get better outreach for these types of programs. This is what we think makes it accessible to the community.
Yeah, agreed that we can flag that during the process, and also just wanted to add that one of the follow-up items that we had from our last call was for a few of us to do a little bit of background research. So glad to hear that the Valley Air District is working at the county level. I did also hear from a contact at the Public Utilities Commission that the programs that they have are all going to be run through the utilities. So again, a follow-up step there would be either if people already have contacts with PG&E, or if they don't and someone has capacity to reach out and try to find a contact. From my perspective, I think we're in the process where, as Jessica mentioned, it's kind of two components that are related that we want to try to move in parallel, but not delay one for the other. So I think we need to take some time to survey what type of weatherization programs are available, and then assess as a subcommittee whether we can pair that with the same group that's deploying the indoor air filtration systems, or if it becomes, you know, can we synergize it? And is there a group that has capacity to do that? Or is it something that to some degree we'll have to figure out how to do as two complementary pieces? So definitely still in the assessment phase. And again, being conscious of time and being committed as a co-facilitator to getting you all out on time. I know we only have a few minutes left. So wanted to pass it back to Elaine to help us move through kind of wrapping up the conversation today and thinking about next steps. Jessica, your hand's still up. Was there anything else you wanted to add? Okay, cool, thanks. Then I'll pass it back to Elaine.
Thanks, Catherine, and thanks y'all for the really great discussion that we have, being that it is our second subcommittee meeting. Wanted to really ask and understand some of the roles that you are going to be diving into this work. I know Catherine and I, being co-leads, and that Valley Air District is doing some background work as well. Wanted to see what you all are wanting to commit to as being part of that subcommittee meeting. I know we're pressed for time, so maybe we can draft some type of survey or some sort to gauge out that information. And also wanted to ask, given that there are a lot of subcommittee meetings happening every month, and this is being a standing monthly meeting, wanted to ask the group if they are okay with potentially moving this to quarterly. I know we have like existing information out there and we still have to do a lot of background research, but given a lot of capacity, if that is something that we wanted to explore. Thumbs up, I see shaking, nodding heads.
I'd be a little concerned about going quarterly. You mean like right now, like head to quarterly at this point?
It could be a possibility, or we could do bi-monthly. I'm just trying to figure out, like, with folks being thinking about other subcommittee meetings who are looking for participants, and giving the capacity of allowing them to be in other subcommittee meetings as well.
I don't want to go too long too soon. Like, you know, I think I'd like to see us have and here I am dumping on the leaders. I'm sorry about that. I'd like to see us have a plan to move forward, and then, you know, as it evolves, maybe stretch it out a bit. But unless you think it's moving okay, I'm not going to step on the leaders' toes. I really appreciate the two of you taking this on so enormously. But I just think that when meetings get stretched out too far, if it doesn't have its basis set, it kind of gets lost.
Most definitely. And thank you so much for the feedback, Margot.
If I can offer I was just going to offer, regardless of, I mean, however the committee wants to go, we're here to support. One of the things we can also do to support work in between is that if the co-leads feel like there's progress and there's action items, and in reality, it's more like quick updates, we as the district can certainly provide updates, whether it's, of course, we have the CSC meeting platform, but we're also happy to email out updates if that's something that you'd like us to take that role. As you know, assuming, again, not to create more work, but assuming maybe if we do skip a month or two and we do go to quarterly or bi-monthly in an effort to have to inform people that stuff truly is working in the background, we can definitely support that if that makes people feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I totally agree with Jessica. I definitely want to see it summarized at a full length, not to pay, because I don't want to take three pages and tell like, okay, I got the first one already taken, and the second one I'm kind of like I'm lost. Just generate the update, and I'm okay with that.
Thanks, Douglas. Anybody else have thoughts that they want to share about kind of what's realistic for meeting frequency, what feels right for the group? Because yes, Lillian and I are the co-leads, and also we want to hear from you all about what's realistic for your capacity. So anybody else have thoughts?
Yeah, I just had a thought, and I agree with Margot that it would be good if there was some momentum and a plan in place that might get going. But I think at first it will need a little bit more frequent meetings to get that momentum going.
All right, so if I can attempt to summarize, it sounds like there's a sense that we're still early on. We probably want to have relatively frequent conversations, and also balancing that with the sensitivity of we're still early on in SERP implementation, and we've got multiple subcommittees plus the monthly steering committee that's meeting. So I think my suggestion would be, as one of the co-facilitators, for me, it would be really helpful just to have some of the additional time to do the follow-up, right? To like help draft the work plan, to give you all a vision of where are places where people can plug in, or where are there places where we need additional research. So I'm wondering if maybe we can kind of land in a middle zone where for the next few months, at least, we test out meeting bi-monthly, so every other month. And I can commit to working with Elaine between now and our next meeting to create a draft work plan that we share with you all well in advance of the next meeting, so that if there's specific components of the work, like being a part of the conversation with the San Diego Air District or reaching out to PG&E, that you all have a really clear place that you can sign up and say to us as the co-leads, like, I'm happy to take this piece back. But it also gives you enough time, hopefully, to be able to follow through on that task before we meet again as a group, so that we're not meeting to kind of just make the plan, but we're both making the plan and following up on some of the steps as we go along. Does that sound like something realistic and in the comfort zone of people in terms of frequency? So that would essentially mean we would skip February, but we would come back in March, and in the in-between time that you all would get a draft work plan for what the next steps are. Awesome. I see thumbs up from Taylor. Mary Elizabeth said A-OK in the chat. Elaine and Jonathan, thumbs up. Any counter offers? All right, well, if not, we are exactly at 5:01, and I feel this was very productive. I definitely have that draft work plan in my head. So we'll be working offline with Elaine to help put that together and circulate it with you all, so that you can see kind of both the path and the timeline that we're on, and again, places where you all can plug in. So really appreciate everybody's time this afternoon. Happy 2022, and looking forward to continuing to working with you all on moving this measure forward.
Nicely done this meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Agreed.
Have a good night.
So much.
Thanks, everyone.
And thanks.
Bye.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah, I thought it she'll send you a
Right
screenshot.
away. And so, but she said that's what she did. See you, Brian.
So she would have attempted to log in on her?
Yes, she would have.